I first noticed Ibrahim had symptoms just when he was a baby, like the first 6 weeks. I noticed him just staring to like spaces. And because I had 2 kids before him, who were twins, very active, so they were used to follow with their eyes. He was not doing that. So I told my mom, I said, something's wrong. And she was like, no, he's fine, The other 2 were like crying all the time, and he was just quiet and not making any, noise and not active. So I just kind of, okay, kind of put it off. And then when he was 9 months, that I noticed he was not making gestures or like saying, waving goodbye or things like that. I was still not, in the back of my head, family telling you, oh, he's fine, he's still too young or whatever, People try to tell you what to do. So I didn't start getting help until he was 12 months, I think, or 13 months, because he had a hard time communicating what he wanted. Like if he wanted something from the fridge, he'll just drag me over there, and, then if I picked up the wrong thing, he'll like scream and cry, and until I tried so many different stuff until I got what he wanted. So I went to his doctor, pediatrician, and told him there's something wrong. And he's just a happy kid, he's smiling all the time. I mean, the doctor's like, no, he looks fine to me. Maybe he needs some speech therapy, but I don't see anything else wrong. But I'm like, something is wrong. I started researching online when the doctor kind of like put me off. So I started Googling. I'm a medical coder, so I'm in the healthcare field and stuff. So I started Googling, trying to look at the symptoms of autism. I know there's like less of symptoms there, but there weren't too many. With my son, when I looked at, there was like maybe 2 or 3, because it was very mild to notice. So, and then I found out while doing the research, there's an early intervention program online through Help Me Grow. You could either refer yourself or the doctor could, so I referred myself. And it took us about a month to get the special education teachers to contact me and come visit at home and do an evaluation with him. I had to wait for a month to get like any kind of response. That's what it says. So I just waited until they contact me, and there was, I guess, a special education teacher, OT, speech. There was like 3 or 4 people that came to visit us at home to do the evaluation. And once they did the evaluation, they still weren't sure what was wrong with him, because he was like very smart. He was doing all the puzzles and everything they asked him to do. He was just not like looking at them or making contact with them. He was more interested on the objects. So they were not even sure like what category to put him in. So they said that because of that, they will just contact the school district and place him in a school. He was only 2 at the time. So from there, they put him in school, and they said they'll wait until he's like 3 years to reevaluate to see if he has autism. The early intervention referred Ibrahim to go to school because of the delay with the speech. Once he started school, because he had so much information in his head, but he couldn't bring it out. Within 2 months, he was saying like so many words. Because they use pictures and things to show him action. Like if you want him to sit down, you just show him a picture of someone sitting, and he'll do it. But if I tell him like sit down, he was not getting it. It's like he was having difficulty with receptive and expressive language. That was his main problem that he was struggling with. So once he was at school for like a couple of months, he was giving me 1-word things, telling me if he needed like grape or like banana or something, he'll just say the word, and that was like relief, from where he was, dragging me to the fridge. He started reading too. He was reading the calendars. I don't know how he learned to read, but he was reading. Once he got in and was doing 5 days a week, day treatment, 3 hours each day at Fraser, plus school and all these other therapies, that's when he started picking up the language. The school staffs were very nice. All his teachers from the first one, he'd been through a couple of them. by the time he started kindergarten. They were very nice. They always asked what kind of food he can eat. Of course, we don't eat pork because of our religion, but Ibrahim was very picky as well. He didn't eat a whole lot of food. He had a problem with texture. Yeah, he wouldn't eat any meat or vegetable or anything like that. So most of the time I had to pack his food from home. He would try certain things, crackers or things like that, but I had to pack from home the things that he liked to eat. Otherwise, probably won't eat anything. And, it took him a while to get used to that until he was in grade, like kindergarten, first grade, to try stuff from school. But they were very respectful and, asked me things like, if it's okay with our culture or certain things that we do, very professional. Once I told my husband, I was the one who noticed him first. Once I told him, he was very supportive. He was on board and he's like, there's nothing, if he tried, we couldn't do to help him, because once you get the help the person needs, that will help them to succeed in the future, and that was, the goal. So he was very supportive, whether it's, receiving the diagnosis or getting help for him to help him, like become a member of society who's, dependent, like self-sufficient. That was our main goal. And so I think it's very important for both parents to support each other, because it's a lot. Not one person could do, not only just parents, but in families too. I had family support as well. I had a sister who's helping me a lot with him, driving him all these places because he had a busy schedule and we both have to work. So it could be very hard if one of the parents are not accepting to the diagnosis, because some people do have that, stigmatism, whether it's our culture or I think I've noticed it's a lot of it's not only in my culture, but I've noticed a lot of different cultures have that, so they think if you just avoid the problem, it's gonna solve itself, but and as a parent, you are your child's advocate. He's doing great. He's 11 years old now, and he's, a very smart kid. He's always been very smart. Reading, he loves reading. He started reading when he was just a little over a year. He'll open the book and sit over there and go page by page. And I remember my daughters at that age, they're 2 years older than him. They probably ripped the book apart or chew it, put it in their mouth, I don't know. But he was just sitting there, opening the page, reading, and me and my husband were looking at him like, what is he doing? We thought he was just looking at the pictures. But he knew how to read. I said at the age of 2, I thought he was just memorizing words. So we were driving and he would look at like signs and, things like that. And he was just reading stuff. And I don't know how he learned. He just learned. I can't take the credit for that, teaching him. But he's doing great. He's in middle school. I was nervous when he went from elementary to middle school, because they only have one class in elementary and then they go the gym or whatever. This time he has to travel to every different, I don't know how many, 6 periods they have. So I was kind of nervous how he's gonna navigate to that, but he did great, going from class to class and following his schedule. And he's mostly independent now. He needs just a little bit of redirection sometimes. He can get off track. But he knows what he needs to do, and he does his assignments. He does great at school, A's and B's with his math. He has a little bit of social, problem. He'll just talk to people randomly. He doesn't have any, close friends. He still has a hard time figuring out the social cues. Always follow your gut feels, because you're the parents, you're there with him all the time. You know what your child's capable. And if you have other kids, every child is different, but main things are, are the same. How the kids develop and things that they do in a certain age. Don't listen to other people, whether it's family or friends, telling you, okay, your child is too young, don't take him to school. It's your job to notice things, to get the help he needs. You're the one who's going to be dealing with him in the future. And you have to make sure you're not always going to be there. So my main goal was, I want to make sure my child is independent and can take care of himself even when I'm not here, no longer here, because you're not going to be there forever. So that's what I would advise to all parents. Just, even it could be annoying sometimes you take your child to the doctor because you notice something. You might not be right, or you could be right, but it's always good to follow and find out instead of just putting in the back, just say, no, maybe it's nothing, and then you're gonna regret later not following up and getting the help. Even if the doctor tells you no, go to another doctor, get a second opinion, because they're only in and out for 5 minutes to look at your child. You're there with them all the time and you know what's wrong. So just follow your guts and get the help they need.